G'day, it's Ryan and welcome back to topic number 4. In this video, we're going to have a look at how performance management has evolved from a system of are you doing your job to how can we help you do your job and how can you make this organisation better. So much more of a conversation, a continuous conversation approach. We'll also therefore highlight some of the formal and informal activities. So by the end of this video, what I want you to be able to express is the importance of performance management in meeting organisational goals, explain the differences in the way that we do this with different workforces, and understand the tools that we might use to develop our employees. So let's start with some definitions. What do we mean by performance management? So the first thing I'd like to stress about performance management is it's not a negative thing. Usually when we say to an employee, I'm going to performance manage you, they sort of get a little bit scared. They go, oh, that doesn't sound good, right? Because manage means, use power, undue influence. So I want to highlight that it's not a scary thing. It's actually a positive conversation, the way that we use it today. What it is it's the process, the cycle through which we align our stakeholders with our vision. And that's why I say it's an important part of human resource management, right? It's a series of conversations around performance that will make sure everybody's doing what they need to do and that we're critically reflecting on how well that we're doing. The other important thing I would say about this cycle of identifying, measuring and developing performance, that is telling employees what they need to do, making sure that it happens and helping them do better, that process of conversation there, is that it's not done to, it's done with. And this is the biggest change in performance management recently. It's not a judgmental evaluative process, it's a developmental one, a series of conversations. Now, as a consequence, we now have our informal and our formal processes. So when we're looking at the formal side of performance management, we are having that conversation. Did you do your job? How well did you do your job? What is the consequence of how well? Do you get a reward? Do you need to get more training? Do you get shown the door? Difficult conversation, we need to have it at some point. As well as the more informal side of things, which is the regular conversation. Okay, so we're not waiting till the end of the year to have the conversation about how well you performed. We talk about it at the shift. Oh, I noticed you did this. Not such a good idea. Or, oh, that was really great. What can we learn from that particular example of positivity there? We also want to identify problems early, so we're not waiting. We can get on top of them and celebrate those successes, as we say. Now, as part of this continuous process, the way that we manage or the way that we develop performance, as opposed to formal systems of learning, okay, we emphasize this social approach to learning that we spoke about in video 3 through coaching and mentoring, okay? So when we're talking about coaching, we're talking mainly about getting them ready for the job. So it's a leadership behavior, it's about removing obstacles, about highlighting particular training or learning sets that we can engage with to make you better at the job now. That's a little bit different from mentoring. So mentoring can be formal or informal and something we can talk about at a later date. But in essence, when we're talking about mentoring, we're talking about more career, more long-term development. So through performance management, we will coach our employees to do well at their job, and we may mentor our employees so that they can see how they may grow within the organisation or develop the skills that they need to move on, depending on your particular approach to human resource management there. Now, there are some really fascinating trends that are happening in performance management, which we don't really have enough time to discuss in a video like this. But one of the big things that I would highlight is that we have started to recognise that there isn't a one-size approach. And as we said right back in video 1, a strategic approach means making sure we do things that make sense for our organisation. And so one of the biggest themes I think is emerging in performance management space at the moment is this concept of social justice. How do we make changes to the way that we define and measure performance so that we can meet the needs of our diverse workforce? So this is things like varying our performance targets to take account for people who are working part-time or people who have particular cognitive or physical ailments that prevent them from performing to the same standard as everybody else or to the same level as everybody else. So our performance management system needs to be agile enough about that, and we have to be able to have those conversations about what might be meaningful and reasonable there. We also need to be aware of different generational values, okay? The way that we develop a baby boomer and the way that we have a conversation with the baby boomers is very different from the way that we talk about performance with, say, the millennial generation. So for a baby boomer, we talk about their individual performance and how that is going to lead to greater wealth, for instance, is one of the themes. Whereas in the younger generations, we focus more on how it's going to impact you as a career, get you more meaningful work, being able to make you move within organisations. The other really interesting theme that's emerging in performance management in around the gig economy is the role of external stakeholders. So again, back in video one, we highlighted that it's not just you and the employee anymore, but you think about every time you take an Uber ride, you're asked to give feedback on that drive. So the customer becomes part of the performance management process. If we think about the way that Twitter works as part of the performance management process, as customers, we're able to very quickly give feedback to the organisation and improve its performance through a tweet. So there's lots of interesting developments there, and if we take that old approach of having an annual performance review, we miss a lot of that data. So that's the trend within performance management, much more continuous, much more conversations as often as we can have with multiple different stakeholders. And so as you're engaging with topic 4, what I'm hoping you see is that it is not just about evaluating. Performance management is not just about saying whether they did their job or not. It's not something that's just done to poor employees. It's something that's done to enrich the lives of our employees. And that's a good segue into topic 5, where we'll talk about employee well-being and how we create a workforce in which, a workplace in which people can actually thrive. So here are some resources you might want to follow up on. Both Capelli and Aquinas are very prolific in the performance management space. My personal favourite is Aquinas, a little bit American, but very, very clear if you're looking to know more about this particular area.